Hi, my name is Steven. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on imposter syndrome, how you can overcome it. Imposter syndrome is a pervasive psychological phenomenon, and it manifests as a negative belief in oneself, that we are not deserving of our accomplishments and that we are a fraud. Managing and overcoming imposter syndrome requires a shift in mindset and the recognition that we are enough, and the results of our success is determined by how hard we work. Embracing one's achievement and acknowledging it can be a way that we can dismantle imposter syndrome. Additionally, we can foster a supportive environment that can break down imposter syndrome's walls and ultimately help us to dispel the insecurities within ourselves. We also need to understand that self-doubt is a part of human reality, and that success is a journey, not a destination, in which case we have to overcome a lot of obstacles along the path. Imposter syndrome is just another challenge that we have to overcome and can overcome on our path to success. I knew for myself that early on in my career, I had bouts of imposter syndrome. But the key for me was to acknowledge it and not let it hinder my life wherever possible, and reframe imposter syndrome as just lack of experience, yet to be learned. And what also helped was that I found my passion, which resulted in less imposter syndrome. When I was really passionate about what I wanted to learn, I was just moving from milestone to milestone. I didn't feel like an imposter. That mindset change ultimately opened the door for me to get over my imposter syndrome and move past my negative feelings on not being good enough for something. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about my background, my thoughts on imposter syndrome, and my general thoughts. But before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, hit that notification bell if you like this content. And here we go. When people are uncertain about the direction of their life, they can fall into having an imposter syndrome. They might have a heightened sense of inadequacy about what they're doing in life. And they might have a fear of not measuring up to some standard. And that uncertainty about their ambitions can fuel their self-doubt within themselves. So that can contribute to them feeling that their accomplishments might be accidental rather than a result of hard work. And the pressure to conform to societal expectation can also give us imposter syndrome, because there is a narrow definition of success in life that society expects of us. And if you fall outside that domain, you might not be up to someone's expectations. That can cause us to focus on things that might not be aligned with our true passions in life, which can ultimately force us in a profession that we might not be truly passionate about and feel like we're a fraud in. So in this context, overcoming imposter syndrome can be alleviated with these two steps. First, we have to acknowledge that we all start from ground zero. And gradually, over time and experience, we build up that knowledge that ultimately becomes the basis for our confidence. And second is our ability to find things that we're truly passionate about in life, so that when we work on it, we don't feel like an imposter. When we align our passions with our goals in life, we feel less of a fraud because we know that we're chosen on this planet to do this one thing. We're gonna have less self-doubt within ourselves if that is truly our passion in life. And when we set clear milestones and goals to achieve our passions, we are more clear on what we intend to do in life. This gives us a clear sense of purpose and removes more self-doubt within ourselves, ultimately helping us to alleviate the burden of imposter syndrome. In my early 20s, I was all over the place. I didn't really have a firm direction in life. This resulted in me having imposter syndrome in various aspects of my life. I didn't feel comfortable living by myself in my work career and in dating life. And I try to also do a lot of things during that time and never gaining confidence in any one thing. This definitely didn't help my confidence as I was trying to establish myself in my 20s. I mainly did this because I didn't know myself and I wanted to try different things before I established my personality. By shotgun blasting this out and not really focusing on what I was good at, I just wasted a lot of time. I should have done that pre-work to figure out what my passions were before I started on things. But as I started to focus in on what I truly wanted during my mid-20s, I started to get clear about my objectives. And when I got clear, I was able to build confidence within myself to execute and complete tasks. This resulted in me lessening my imposter syndrome on various things I was working on. Although I didn't fully complete all the goals I wanted in my mid-20s, I was able to accomplish a majority of them. And I knew more about what my purpose in life was. I ultimately reframed my mindset into a learner mode rather than me feeling like a fraud in something. It's really about how hard you work on something and not your inherent abilities. So here are my thoughts on imposter syndrome. Number one, everyone goes through it. Imposter syndrome is a common and near universal experience that everyone goes through at some point in their lives. We all deal with self-doubt and inadequacy despite our accomplishments. And the feeling of imposter syndrome can rise, especially when we're in a transition phase in our lives. such as taking on new responsibilities, a new job, and moving to a new city. Anytime we're in a position when we're experiencing something for the first time exposes us to imposter syndrome. And recognizing these moments and understanding that everyone goes through it can help mitigate imposter syndrome. Because at the end of the day, everyone goes through that common experience and we can all learn something from everyone else. In most of my teens and early 20s, I was in a constant state of imposter syndrome, and it was due to me not knowing what I wanted to do clearly in my life. I was trying all sorts of things because others told me that I should do this, not what I really wanted. And the other aspect of this was I wanted to really find my passion, so I tried a lot of things in life before I settled on one thing. Once you know the few things that you're good at, you want to stick to those things. Or you know what you want to do and you start building experience and confidence within your domain. You can still have imposter syndrome even if you're working at a career really hard, especially if you're not really passionate about it. And this is something that's big. Everyone at one point in their lives has to go through a period in which they're doing something that they're not truly passionate about and might feel like a fraud doing it. So everyone goes through imposter syndrome, especially early on in life when they haven't figured things out for themselves. Number 2, it's a bad mindset. Imposter syndrome over a long period of time can be very detrimental to one's self-being because it continuously fosters a negative mindset about oneself. The constant fear of being exposed as a fraud can put someone on edge repeatedly and lead to slowing down personal and professional growth. Embracing a more neutral or positive expectation of oneself is the more preferred path. And having that kind of mindset can break free from having that kind of imposter syndrome. And ultimately, we can foster a more fulfilling life once we are able to get rid of that mindset. Breaking free or mitigating the effects of imposter syndrome is one of the best things that you can do in your life. Because then you could truly take the reins of responsibility and not fall back into a victim. To truly gain confidence for being good at your craft due to hard work and your talent, and not because you think you're a fraud. This also means that understanding that whatever situation you're in a constant state of learning. You might not know something and you might not be the most experienced person, but you'll eventually get there. That's not being a fraud, that just means that you need to learn more. No one started at the top. We all started from somewhere and had to learn things along the way and pass through different challenges in life to ultimately get to where we want to go. So holding an imposter syndrome mindset is not something that we want to keep for long. Shift it instead to a growth opportunity. Number 3, a lack of experience. Imposter syndrome often arises not because of personal deficits, but lack of recognition and accomplishments, and one's self-belief of downplaying successes that they might have, either attributing it to luck or certain external factors. This syndrome is more about a perceptions gap rather than actual abilities, or the perceived expectation of competence. Overcoming imposter syndrome ultimately revolves around recognizing your own successes in life and valuing one's experience, skills, and personal journey in life. And that journey can be marked by occasional setbacks, which is not necessarily a reflection on one's abilities. Imposter syndrome for me has always been defeated by getting better at what I was doing and gaining the skills and competency in whatever I was doing at the time. I don't think I was undeserving or a fraud in the things that I was working on. If I was lacking in some experience, I would work hard and make sure I shore up that knowledge and get better at it. But this process takes time and it cannot be rushed. Building the confidence within yourself in a specific skill set or domain takes a lot of time. As I've gained experience in life personally and professionally, I've used that to build up my confidence and use that to help springboard me into feeling less of an imposter with each passing experience. This means that when I'm trying something new, I don't start from zero. I start from a base level of understanding about that thing. And I use that base level knowledge to build on that experience for the future, which means that I'll have less imposter syndrome as I grow with experience. So with most things, I believe that imposter syndrome can be defeated with more experience in life, using that experience and competency to overcome imposter syndrome. Number 4, finding your passion to overcome it. Discovering and pursuing your passion can be a powerful way to overcome imposter syndrome. When you engage in activities that genuinely excite you, you feel less like an imposter. It fosters a sense of purpose and authenticity about what you're actually doing. This in turn diminishes the feelings of inadequacy. Immersing yourself in passions help build self-esteem and confidence within yourself. Additionally, finding your passions and pursuing it often entails self-growth and development because you're continuously learning to hit your goals in life. And it helps reinforce that we're always in a state of learning and we're never done learning about something. This helps you to condition yourself not in a fixed state, but in an evolving one, which can by itself help to mitigate the worst effects of imposter syndrome. You build the connections between your skills and experience and your sense of self-worth. I do know a few people that still struggle with imposter syndrome in their lives. They tell me they want to overcome it, but when I press them about the details, they struggle to answer that. Ultimately, they don't know what their passions are in life, but they pursue something else just for the money. Money is a reason to do something in life, but maybe not if it gives you imposter syndrome. Because as I explained earlier, the long-term consequences of holding that imposter syndrome can be very detrimental to yourself. In this case, you're doing something for the secondary reasons, money, rather than the primary reason of you actually enjoying that process or career. As I figured out what I wanted to do in life, I gained more confidence in it. And because it aligned with my personal goals in life, I felt like I wasn't an imposter. I was just doing something that I loved. So when you find your passion and are aligned with it, you feel like less an imposter doing it. So here are my general thoughts on imposter syndrome. I see people having imposter syndrome as a big problem in our society. There are a lot of people going about in their lives because other people tell them that that's what they should do. And when people don't question that, they get forced into doing something that they might feel that they're an imposter in. And ultimately, they might get locked into that imposter syndrome life for good. And that can lead to dissatisfaction with each and every day within their lives. At its core, I think imposter syndrome can be rooted out by figuring out what you really want to do in life. Finding that true purpose so that you don't feel like a fraud. You just feel like someone that actually wants to go out and do that thing. The more aligned that you are with what you truly want to do in life, the less of an imposter you will feel. And overall, overcoming imposter syndrome can be a very tough process. But as my experience has taught me, it can be done. The key is to find your passion, work on that passion, and gain crucial experience to build your confidence. And use that confidence to ultimately build on future activities. This isn't a fast process, and it took me more than a decade to complete. But it's completely worth it in the end to rid yourself of imposter syndrome. Start from your passions and work from there. So those are my thoughts on having imposter syndrome. The belief that we are not good enough in something is an insidious mindset that we have to get rid of. This negative feeling can have devastating impacts on one's self-esteem over the long term, and overall reduce our confidence going forward in the next thing. We don't want to feel like we're a fraud, but we have to understand that it is a common experience shared by everyone on this planet. And through hard work and building up your confidence, it can be mitigated or overcome. As I learned, it starts with finding your passions and your path in life. Only then you can align your life with the goals that you want to obtain. Imposter syndrome, at the end of the day, is a perception gap between yourself and what others think of you. So find your bliss and ignore the haters. So thank you for watching. Please leave me a comment down below on when was the last time you had imposter syndrome and what did you do to overcome it. And I'll see you next time.